Hello to all of the people joining us. I'm just continuing to let people in. We've got a full house tonight for our presentation. So just bear with me while I let people in and we'll get started with our presentation very shortly. Perfect. So welcome everyone. We're certainly happy to see such a great crowd joining us this evening. My name is Kathy Young. I'm the Chief Academic Officer of Blyth Academy. And I've been traveling with students for more years than I would like anyone to know, actually. I've been on probably 20 or 25 excursions with students, some of them these 3 to 4 week summer trips, some of them shorter 1 week March break trips, but it's really been the highlight of my career, traveling with students and showing them the world. Bryan, would you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, everyone. My name is Bryan Bonnah. I work with G Hardy Tours. I have a couple of roles. I do customer service, and I also am an experiential learning leader, and I've been doing that for about 20 years. I've been taking students overseas in all sorts of different capacities, as a teacher, as a principal, as a tour director. I started in around 1999 with G Hardy and have been doing it ever since. And I think it's an incredible experience. I've witnessed firsthand the transformative impact that this kind of experience can have on young people. And we're very pleased to have you here tonight. And I'll be here to speak to any questions you have about the travel component of the trip. And I look forward to sharing my contact as well, and you can reach out to me directly if you have any questions.
Thank you, Bryan. Thank you. Yeah, Bryan and I will really divide and conquer this evening. He will speak largely to the travel component of the experiences, although he's very versed in the academics as well. I will speak largely to the academic component of the experience, although again, I'm relatively well versed in the travel component as well, having led a number of these trips over my career. My background is in public education, actually. I was a public secondary school principal for many years, and it was in that capacity that I led a fair number of these excursions. I was introduced to travel, just a personal story that might scare parents a little bit. I was introduced to travel when my daughter went on one of these trips to do grade 12 English with Georgia Hardy Tours, actually, which is how I connected with Georgia Hardy Tours. And it really set her up on a lifelong, she's 32, no, 31 now. And it really set her up on a lifelong love of travel. She did a semester abroad in university in Bangkok, which was a scary thing for a mom, but she sure loved it. And it changed her life, So welcome. We're thrilled that you're here. And we're excited to share this opportunity with you. So we're going to talk about our programs. This is just a little marketing piece. You earn a credit in the summer, as I think you all know. If you're not interested in travel, you certainly will be after this experience. Experience of a lifetime and lifelong friends. My daughters get, just as an aside, Sarah's getting married in June, and some of the people that she's inviting to her wedding are people that she met on her travel experience. So they've been in touch for probably 15 years now. Why would you choose Georgia Hardy Blyth Academy? We know that you have choices. There are other choices in the market. We ground ourselves in these 3 pillars. Academic excellence, I can speak to that firsthand as a lifelong educator, both in the public system and now in the private system. We offer high quality experiences. One of the things I'm often asked is, will my student who does a grade 12 English credit be prepared? Will they learn what they need to learn to progress? And the answer is yes. The answer is yes. We will cover that curriculum and we will cover it in an authentic way, but in an experiential way as well. Decades of experience between Georgia Hardy, who has been doing this for, Bryan, how many years?
38.
38 years, and Blyth Academy, who's been doing it for roughly the same length of time. We have many years of experience between us to offer a safe but really fun and enjoyable opportunity for students. Safe group travel, that's one of our pillars because it's one of my big focuses. It's Georgia Hardy's focus, and we know that you families care about the safety of your students as well. So we have a real commitment to keep students safe. I always say that the standards that we use for your children are the same standards that I would use for my own child, or that George would use for his daughters, who are much this age as well. Kathleen Hardy, if she were here, she sometimes does these presentations with me. If Kathleen Hardy were here, she would say, we will never take you to a hotel that I wouldn't stay in myself. We will never serve you a meal that I wouldn't eat myself as well. So that's the commitment that we make. Brief outline of the evening. We'll talk about program staff, academics, what's included, accommodation meals, supervision and safety, and the destinations. So the staff. We choose carefully. I choose carefully, actually. I do all of the hiring for our teaching staff and our principals, and I choose carefully. I'm looking for people who are enthusiastic, who are well-traveled, who students will enjoy spending time with, because they're going to spend a lot of time together with these individuals. I also look for Ontario College of Teachers certified teachers. Some of them are Blyth Academy teachers. Some of them are from other reputable private schools. Some of them are from our public school partners. The TDS, one of the teachers who traveled with us last year was a TDSB teacher. So we take qualified, but fun and relatable teachers. Similarly, every program has a principal who is the lead. They're responsible for the logistics. They're a first point of contact for parents, because we know that parents need to be able to reach out to an individual and get an immediate response. They're responsible for any disciplinary issues. We hope that there aren't many, and there typically are not, but they would be responsible. And they're also the person who goes the extra mile. You know, students may need to go to the grocery store. They may need to get a phone. They may need to go to the pharmacy. They may need an extra optional excursion organized. That principal is the person who will go the extra mile to make this an outstanding experience for your children. Academics. Let's talk about the academics briefly. In our International Summers program, I can guarantee that all of our credits that we offer are recognized by the Ontario Ministry of Education. Blyth Academy issues the credits, and we are an accredited school, an inspected private school, actually, is the appropriate terminology to use. Small class sizes ensure that students will receive personalized attention. One of the questions that I'm frequently asked is, what will my students mark? What will my child's mark be like? Will it be as good as or better than they would have earned in a regular day school? I can make no guarantees. If I make guarantees, I wouldn't be promising an authentic credit. But what I can say based on my experience is that with our small class sizes, with our personalized attention, with the fact that the students are embedded in the learning environment 24 hours a day, doesn't mean in class is 24 hours a day, but the teachers are always available for help. They're reading novels in English that relate to the area that they're in, probably that were written by an author from the countries that they're visiting. They are studying Julius Caesar as they visit the Roman Forum and Colosseum. All of those pieces come together to help students typically achieve a great mark, EDSB, some of you will be familiar with EDSB. Most of you, or many of you, are probably not. That is our learning management system that we use. One of the things that we really like about it, and that we have found that students and parents really like about it, is that course materials, resources, lessons, assessments, all evaluation, all of those results are shared through EDSB. Students have access to it. Parents at home have access to it at all. So there are no mysteries or secrets about what children or what students are studying or how well they're achieving. So we think that EDSB is a really strong piece of our program. This is a list of the courses that we offer. They vary by program. All of the courses have grade 11 and 12 English, or all the programs, sorry, have 11 and 12 English. Some of them will have math courses, photography courses, and the rest. You'll need to look at each of the individual brochures, which Brian will show you how to access a little later to see which particular courses are offered on each program. Typical day. What does a typical day look like? That's a really hard question, because every day is just a little bit different when you're traveling, as people who have traveled a lot are aware. But typically, what students will do is up in the morning for breakfast, and classes will be in the morning, then lunch. I know this talks about classes in the afternoon. That isn't typically what happens. We put it there because it's possible. But usually what we try to do is focus the first part of the day on classes for the students. Then lunch, and then afternoon is typically some sort of an experiential opportunity. Maybe it's free time. Maybe they're studying around the pool. Maybe they're working on their homework. Maybe they're going to the Forum. Maybe they're going to the Vatican, maybe depending on where they are. So lots of different activities happen in the afternoon. And then dinner. After dinner, full disclosure, students will have the opportunity, sorry, I'm just letting someone in. Students will have the opportunity after dinner to sign out in groups, unless there's an organized activity taking place. But more frequently, they would sign out in groups and do some exploration of the local area. Really important that they're in a group, really important that they sign out, that they tell the teacher, the principal, whoever's signing them out, where they're going. They will be given a time to be back, and they'll be checked on once they return. 11 o'clock, see that star beside 11 o'clock? That the curfew is not always 11 o'clock. Sometimes it's a little earlier, sometimes it's a little later. It really depends what's happening the next day. If we've got an early travel day, we're going to want the students to be back earlier. If the next day is a bit of a free day, then perhaps if they've earned it, a slightly later curfew. If it's a heavy day of classes or exams, might be a little earlier. To speak to curfew, though, it will be set by the principal every day. Students will have to sign in if they've been out, and then following that, room checks will be done as well to be sure that students are all in and safe. Checking the chat. The literature, I'm just reading it. Literature says aimed at grades 10 to 12, but is that the summer going into? So we offer grade 11 courses and grade 12 courses. So typically what would happen would be students would have finished their grade 10 and they would be going into grade 11 if they were going to take grade 11 English or grade 11 photography, or some of the other courses that they're qualified for. If they've finished grade 11, they'd be going into grade 12. We have, on occasion, very rare occasion, had students a little bit younger than that who had worked ahead and were ready to take a grade 11 course. So there isn't an age minimum, but students must have earned the prerequisite for the course that they want to take. Hope that answers the question that Michael asked. Supervision. I've talked a little bit about this. The average student to staff ratio is 9 to 1. We have a sign in and sign out system, which I just described, followed by room checks. When students sign out for the evening or for the afternoon, typically it's a minimum of 4 students together at all times. On some of the programs where we visit some smaller locations, we have made an exception and allowed groups of 3 rather than 4, because they're really just in such a concentrated area. That's particularly true in a place like Paros, where they might be going downtown to the grocery store or to the pharmacy. And that would be fine for students to be in groups of 3. But that's an individual decision that's always made by the principal. All programs are non-drinking and 0 tolerance of drugs, and we're really quite strict on that. Safety. I've talked about this. The health, safety, and security of students really is our priority. We have access to doctors and medical staff on all programs. Last year, I was with the Greece Italy group for the first 10 days, and we had to make use of that. But really quick response and a really good quality access to doctors, medical staff on all of our programs. This comment about the option to purchase cancellation protection and travel medical insurance through Georgia Hardy Tours, certainly Georgia Hardy Tours, Bryan can probably talk about that, offers a really good, very well-priced insurance program. We are aware, though, that some of you will have travel and cancellation and medical insurance through your employers, whatever. So we require insurance. Doesn't have to be Georgia Hardy's, but you must have travel insurance. Brian, do you want to say more about that right now?
Sure. So, what you're looking for when you're comparing insurance, when you're doing your due diligence, is you're kind of looking for three things. The three things that we offer in our package. We call it the ultimate insurance package. You're looking for a trip cancellation. So if for some reason your son or daughter is unable to go on the trip, something happens between now and departure, then that's a component of your insurance. You want trip interruption. So we have trip cancellation, number one, trip interruption. So they're on the trip and something happens, and for some reason they have to come home. What does your insurance coverage include that? And finally, emergency medical in the event that they require care when they're overseas. That is covered as well. So, do you, as you're going through the process of your own due diligence around what your respective insurance policies cover, that's what we're offering, and that's kind of, I think, the three sort of pillars that you might be looking for when you're shopping around for insurance: trip cancellation, trip interruption, and medical.
Thanks, Brian.
Welcome.
Okay. You'll see at the top ages 15 to 18. As I said before, there is no minimum age, but that is the typical age of our students. Greece, Italy. Brian, maybe I'll let you talk about this a little bit.
Sure. Do you want to turn me over and I'll put up let's see where it is. Sorry. Oh, it's gone.
While you're looking for it, I can actually talk
Yeah,
about it a little bit because I did it last summer, or at least I did the first part of it last summer. And it's a pretty outstanding itinerary. Just so the group is aware, this trip is filling up. I don't say that to assure anyone, but this trip is filling up. It starts in Athens, and it was hot in Athens last year, but it was spectacular. The hotel that we stay at in Athens, the first night the students are there, they have dinner on the rooftop patio, and it overlooks the Acropolis, and the views at night are really just stunning. Then we move on to Paros, which is one of the islands. Really nice to get to the islands because if it's warm, the islands are just a lovely place to be. Paros is a terrific little island. It's one of the up-and-coming Greek islands. We stay in a hotel right on the waterfront. So you sit in the restaurant and you're looking at the sea. It's really pretty spectacular. Fira is on Santorini. I don't know if this was the highlight or not. I think it might have been the highlight of the trip. Kids really loved Santorini. My staff really loved Santorini.
Oh, it's a very special place.
It's pretty awesome, isn't it, Brian?
It is.
So Santorini was pretty spectacular. They sailed, there's a sunset cruise in Santorini. We also organized a boat trip, a pirate ship trip for the kids in Paros, and that was pretty spectacular as well. Also, I should have mentioned it, went over to Antiparos, little island next door to Paros, and pretty fun. Okay. So if you go to the Blyth, actually a little description here, if you're at the Blyth Education website, at the very top, you can click travel programs, and then this is the screen that it will take you to. So blytheducation.com, possibly you've been there, travel programs. Scroll down, and when you click into any one of the programs,
that's one I was going to.
Here's Greece, Italy. That's the one that I was just talking about. Brian, do you want to describe it, and then I'll click.
Yeah. So what you've got, you see the tabs up at the top there. So you get an overview, which will provide you with all the details around the accommodation. There's a list of the hotels, and if you click on each one, it takes you to the respective websites. All the details regarding inclusions and exclusions. Very important that you take a good look at that. It gives you a detailed sort of look at the trip. And if you want to go back up to the front, the top, excuse me. You'll see there that there's a book now button in the top, blue button up in the top right-hand corner. So that's if you decide you would like to register, you can just go forward from there, and it's a pretty straightforward process. So that's the homepage for the Greece and Italy trip. You'll see up at the top there's a details tab as well, Kathy. Yeah. So you have the terms and conditions, additional documents, which we posted some things like a packing list and things will be appearing there. And information about the trip, details around the transport, if there's an internal flight on the trip or if there's not, all of the details and information is there. And there's a map as well, which will show you the itinerary and kind of the general flow of the trip. So there's 4 trips on offer this summer. We have the Greece and Italy, which, as Kathy mentioned, is a very, very popular trip this year. And we have a 4-week trip to Greece as well, a trip to Spain and Portugal, and finally one to the great capitals of Europe, which include London, Amsterdam, and Munich, and Rome, amongst many others.
I'm just going to highlight that one for a second.
Yes, it's an amazing trip.
It's a fabulous trip. It's new to us this year. It's been very, very popular in the past, and it's very, very popular, we know, with some of our competitors. It's a trip for for someone who really wants to see a lot of Europe in a fairly condensed period of time, and is up for a fast moving travel. Lots of moves, lots of travel, but man, you see a lot of Europe on this trip. It starts in London. Let me see, oops, didn't mean to do that. It starts in London, and we spend 4 nights in London. I don't know how many people have been to London, but a pretty amazing cosmopolitan city, and one of my personal faves, actually. I took kids to London for many years, and we really enjoyed it. Brian, I'm taking over your job. Brian,
yeah. And then after 4 days in London, as you said, Kathy, an incredible city with so much to see and do, action-packed itinerary, the National Gallery, the Buckingham Palace. I mean, it's endless, the things and the attractions in that city. So then the second leg and the third leg have been planned very purposefully. 2024 is the 80th anniversary of D-Day and the liberation of Europe, and it's something that Georgia Hardy Tours has been very committed to for a long time. And in terms of promoting knowledge and awareness of this Canada's role in this, the liberation of Europe is really significant. And so we're going to be spending some time in some of the sites of World War I and World War II and really immersing ourselves in that important part of the history. Then from there, we go on to some of the great cities of Europe. The Grand Tour of Europe includes a time in Amsterdam, another place with a fascinating history, a completely unique city in Europe, and a wonderful place to visit. Then on to Munich. Another amazing city with a great sense of history, and this is all threaded through the course by the teachers, who are working very diligently to make incredible connections between the experiences and the curriculum to really bring them to life for your sons and daughters. And finally, we end in Italia Bella, in beautiful Italy, in Florence, and in probably the grandest of the grand tours of all the cities in the world, and that is, of course, Rome.
Rome. And just to pick up on that, lest you think we forgot Paris, we did not. We quite deliberately stayed away from staying in Paris because of the Olympics, because of, one just never knows what sort of unrest that might bring to Paris. But we do a day trip, an excursion into Paris, so that students do not miss that experience, that wonderful city.
Yes.
If they take this trip.
Yeah.
So that's Grand Tour, and it's set up the same way with the same at the top. So I would encourage you to take a look at that trip as well. Now, if I go back to our presentation, did my screen change or no?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I'm used to using Teams, so when I'm using Zoom, I'm not sure whether I'm doing it properly or not. So back to our presentation, Greece, Italy, we've talked about that extensively. We have an all Greece trip, which we have not talked about extensively, but another fabulous trip. Athens, same sort of, Brian, go ahead.
Yeah. So Athens and Delphi, and then down to Crete. An amazing place,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
opportunity for the students to visit Knossos, the great ancient ruin, ancient site. It's a beautiful island with tons to see and do, and then on to Santorini for to experience that beautiful vista that you're seeing right there in the picture, and finally in Paros, which I know from the group last year because we got lots of wonderful feedback from the parents. The students just loved Paros. That's right, Kathy? You were
That's
there.
right. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
there. It was they loved it. Again, that waterfront hotel
Yeah.
is fabulous. As an aside, so Heraklion is in Crete. I traveled with a group of students. You might cringe or you might think this was the best experience ever. I took a group of about 35 students around the world for a year. So we spent 2 months in Europe, then 2 months in Asia, then 2 months in Australia and New Zealand, and finally 2 months in South and Central America. The reason I tell you that is we spent a month in Heraklion, in Crete. And as Bryan said, I don't know how well known it is, but it's a fabulous island. The students really enjoyed it. Small, safe, but large enough that there's lots to do and lots to see. There's history, there's food, there are beaches. It's really a pretty cool spot. So that's the Greece trip. Portugal and Spain, we haven't talked a lot about that. Bryan, do you want to give a brief overview?
Fantastic itinerary. Something completely different again. It was spending the first 2 weeks in Portugal, in Lisbon and Cascais, which is a seaside town just outside of Lisbon, and they take a day trip down to the Algarve and making their way to one of the great cities to visit, Sevilla, and then some time in Malaga, down on the beach, and then ending finally in
Barcelona.
which of course is an incredible place to visit. It's
Who doesn't?
just
Yeah.
wonderful.
Who doesn't love Barcelona, right? Who
Yeah,
doesn't love Barcelona?
absolutely. Right. To see the Sagrada Familia, it's just incredible.
Which they may finish someday or not.
Yeah, yes.
And then Grand Tour of Europe, we've talked about that lots. That's our longest trip and pretty exciting, pretty exciting. What's included, Bryan? I leave this to
Yeah.
you.
Okay, so in each of the digital brochures that Kathy and I have just kind of shown you, or Kathy showed you, it lists all of the inclusions and exclusions in the trip. And so in every one of them, we have airfare, of course, and accommodation. And I'd least like to point out, when you're doing your research on options, to keep in mind, not only Georgia Hardy's long history of doing these trips, but also the fact that we really pride ourselves on the quality of the accommodation. Every hotel has been inspected by a Georgia Hardy staff member. We really pride ourselves on the fact that we offer meals and accommodation that are of very high standard. And I know Kathleen, who's the vice president of the company, would say, that she would never send students to a place that she wouldn't feel comfortable sending her daughters to. So that I think is something to keep in mind when you're looking at your options, and full transparency as well. When you look on our website, you see everything. You see lists of the hotels. You see all the details. You can look at them up and look at the reviews yourselves. Everything is transparent and upfront, and we've always done it that way, and we continue to do so.
Can I
Transport.
interrupt, can I interrupt on that topic as well, Bryan? Just a second what you're saying, but also what Bryan didn't mention is location. On these trips, location of the hotel matters a lot. Because you want to be in the center, I think. Well, I know as a student, you want to be in the center of things. And Georgia Hardy, all of their hotels are city center, are close to the action, are safe, but you're not spending a lot of time traveling to and from your hotel to the sites and your various excursions, and that matters. I just wanted to add that, Bryan.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, Kathy. When you look at if you're looking at an option and you don't see the hotels that are on there, then you need to ask why. Is it because they're an hour and 15 minutes out of the center of Rome? So in the evenings when kids have free time, when the students have free time, there's kind of nowhere to go or nothing to do. Where are you? And we do choose centrally located, 3 and 4 star and inspected properties that we've trusted, and many of them we've been using for years and years and years, and they have great reputations. All transportation is included, so all bus transfers. If there's an internal transfer of some kinds, internal flights, for example, everything is included in the rates. Breakfast and dinner is included daily. All taxes are included. There's room taxes and city taxes and all of that. All of that is looked after for your sons and daughters. All of the hotels have high quality Wi-Fi. That's an important thing that for us to do, to check out when we're inspecting properties, is to ensure that the Wi-Fi is of a very good quality and able to handle the demands that students will have when they're doing their research and their projects and their assignments. If they're meeting as groups or whatever, that's all there. We normally, when we're building an itinerary at G Hardy, what we do is we start with a city orientation. So it's often a guided with a local guide who's a blue badge guide, which are the highest quality. They are people who are very well qualified and well locally have an excellent knowledge of the city, and we provide a city orientation so that your students get to see the main sites and get familiar with the layout when they arrive into a new location. Academic and instruction in the course materials. Kathy, do you want to speak to that?
Yes, it's all included with the exception of textbooks for the courses. Typically, students will pay, not typically, students will be responsible for that on their own.
Mm-hmm. So what's not included, and you know, I'll get into that in a little bit more detail when we talk about budget in a second. There's optional excursions available in some of the trips. For example, there's a trip in Rome to the Vatican that's available, and all of those sort of details are included in the. There's an optional day trip to Venice as well, for the students in Italy or on Greece, Italy. But those details are all in the inclusions and exclusions relative to the particular brochure of the trip that you happen to be looking at. There's a $195 registration fee that's also not included. And finally, lunches are not included. So when you start thinking about budgets, and I'll speak to that in a couple of minutes, that's something to keep in mind, but I'll give you more detail about that in a sec.
Whoops, went the wrong way. Sorry about that. Brian's talked a little bit about this, but
yeah, so some of the things that that are included in the itineraries and the respective itineraries include city tours, museum visits, all of those things, all of those tickets and such are included. Then we will visit cultural sites relevant to the particular curriculum focus for the trip and relevant to the location that they happen to be in. Walking tours are included. There are some beach days. We've got, I think, a good balance. You know, when the team at Blyth and the team at GH is building an itinerary, we try and ensure that there's enough time to ensure that the pacing of the trip is one that doesn't, you know, overwhelm the students and keeps their focus on the academic, which is a very important part, of course, why they're there. Ensure they're not overly tired and they have opportunities, you know, in a week to focus on getting their work done and their assignments done. There are marketing and shopping excursions included, and we will provide orientation with our local guides to say, you know, buy this here, go here, and you know, and support them in that. And each program as well ends with a formal banquet, because after spending 3 weeks or so together, a real strong sense of community is built among the students and the staff, and it's a wonderful way we do something extra special at the end to bring everybody together to celebrate as a community and to recognize the achievement, because it is truly an amazing experience for your sons and daughters.
certainly.
So accommodations, as I mentioned earlier, so 3- and 4-star boutique hotels, centrally located, carefully selected, and like I said, many of them we've been using for years. We have great relationships with these properties. They like working with GHT and with Blyth, and when they invite us back every year, they love our students. So they're carefully selected. We choose them based on location. We choose them based on quality and relationship. So the accommodations will be based on double, triple, and quad occupancy. So that's how the pricing is built. The reason it varies from place to place is it very much depends on the properties. And some of the smaller places, for example, I think Kathy mentioned Paros, some of the hotels that we use are quite boutique and quite special. So, the configurations of the rooms vary from place to place. So, a quad occupancy in one place may be when the four people are then split into two and two at another place. And there's nothing we can do to avoid that. Just it's based on the properties. But what we do is welcome anybody if you've got a rooming request. If you're traveling with a friend, you just put that into your registration, and we will accommodate that. We'll ensure that friends are traveling with friends, and then they get to room together throughout the summer. Breakfast and
Oh, sorry, I just interrupt you because Michael's just asked a question about students traveling with friends or without friends, which fits in nicely to what you're saying. And rather than type the answer, Michael, what I would say is some students come with friends, some students go solo. My daughter actually did her trip solo. Didn't know anybody on the trip, and I'm gonna tell the story, it's true. She cried when I dropped her off at the airport because she was sad she was leaving her mom. She cried when she got home because she was sad she was leaving the friends that she met. So, and I would say that that's not unique to Sarah, my daughter. That's pretty typical of these kids. So lots of students will
Hey,
attend.
Kathy, and correct me if I'm wrong. Would you say it's about
50-50?
50-50? I was going to say 50-50.
Yeah, I think 50. Sometimes there are even more kids that don't know anyone, to be very honest with you. Lots of students attend alone.
There will be a pre-departure meeting. There'll be an opportunity in the spring for the group to come together. So there's an opportunity to kind of make some introductions. And then, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kathy, but there'll be some academic meeting time before that. So the sense of community is somewhat established before they get to the airport. So they may have already made those connections, and if they are traveling alone.
And if they don't, they will make them either on the plane on the way over or the first night. What we do, and another question that people often ask about rooming, and I would say everyone gets their own bed. A quad is not, I mean, there are sometimes quad rooms, but those will be large rooms. That's the least.
They're suites.
Yeah, that's the least.
Yeah, that's a good point, Kathy. Thank you. That everybody always has their own bed.
What we find is that some people will make requests and they'll want to room with the people that's been known to change on the trip as well, because they'll mix and match and stay with lots of different students throughout the experience. So
and when that's being built, there'll be full transparency and full communication with everybody. So we will reach out to you, and everybody will know what's going on. There's never going to be any surprises.
No.
So as I said, breakfast and dinners included. Daily lunches are not. So I will speak about budgeting in a second.
So we've just got some pictures. Okay, there's the one I've been talking about. There's where you might eat your breakfast, and there's the sea right there. So that's the Galatas Hotel in Paros. It was a fan favorite, I want to say, last year.
As you're looking out your window in Southern Ontario today, maybe that's
maybe you don't want to look at that picture right now. It was pretty remarkable. This is Hotel Donatello in Florence, which is one of the hotels we use there. The real strength of this hotel is its location. It's blocks, steps to the Duomo, and it's an old palace, an old palazzo. So it's a pretty nice spot.
And a lovely courtyard for breakfast. It's really quite.
This is the one I was talking about in Athens, the hotel in Athens, and that is the view of the Acropolis from the rooftop patio where you eat dinner on that first night. It's a really nice property as well. London National Hotel is very central in London, which is a
Bloomsbury, beautiful location.
Yeah, and then the one up above, I don't know. That's in Seville. I don't know that property, Brian.
No, I haven't been to that one.
But I'm sure that it meets the same quality standards.
Yeah, absolutely. Molina's with it.
Yeah. Moving on to meals.
Yes, so I'll speak to this, Kathy. So allergies, dietary restrictions, so anything like that, there's a field in your registration. When you click on book now and you follow the steps to register for one of the four trips. There is a field there for any special requests. If your son or daughter requires accommodations or there's an allergy. And what we will do is we will collate those lists. We send them in advance to all the properties, to all the restaurants. They have all of the information in advance and make all the accommodations necessary to ensure that your son or daughter's dietary needs are met. And keeping in mind lunch is on their own, so there is a bit of a self-management piece there, but they are able to explore the local areas as well.
And students really enjoy that, quite frankly. Lunch on their own. They like that opportunity to be a little bit independent, to try other places. Often parents ask the question, what's that going to cost? How expensive is it? What I would say based on my experience is it can be nothing if that's what you choose it to be, because breakfast, I've often known students to breakfasts are typically buffets. They're typically all you can eat, and students have been known to how should I say this?
Carb load, bulk up. I don't know.
Well, I wasn't going to say to fill up. They maybe they take some bread, take some fruit, take a bit of cheese, whatever. Students have been known to do that. They've been known to go to grocery stores and stock up. Certainly our leaders will show them where those grocery stores are if they want to do lunch that way. Other students I've known really wanted to try some lovely restaurants that they would not otherwise have an opportunity to try at lunch. So lunch can be as varied as you want it to be. And we found that students really enjoy that. There's just some pictures of some of the buffets. Optional excursions. Brian, do you want to speak to optional excursions?
Yeah. So each of not every trip has an optional excursion, but the details are included in the digital brochure. The four optional excursions you see there: Vatican City, an optional trip to Venice. That's a day trip from Florence, and they do it by train. As Kathy mentioned, Paris is an optional excursion on the Grand Tour. And finally, there's an optional excursion to the Dachau concentration camp from Munich. Yes, as well.
And I made up this slideshow, so I'm full disclosure, those are not all of the optional excursions. Those are just a sample of some of the optional excursions that are available.
Yeah, they're all included in the digital brochure and there's specific information. And if you have a question about one of them, I've dropped my email into the chat, so feel free to reach out to me at brian@ghardytours.com. My email's in the chat. If you have any questions about the digital brochures, I'm happy to help you out.
And in my experience, it's always wise to register for the optional excursions that you want to do before the trip departs. It can be difficult to decide at the last minute. It's not always impossible, but can be very difficult to decide at the last minute. And some of these optional excursions will be very popular. Venice last year, very popular. Most students went to Venice. I would anticipate Paris being very popular. But half the kids went to Vatican, half did not. Dachau, I would really encourage, I've done that with students. I would really encourage you, if you're on the Grand Tour, to think about that as an optional excursion. It's a pretty incredible, moving experience. Very, very well done by the organization. Another question that's often asked about optional excursions: if my child doesn't go, what happens? And we always leave a supervisor back at the hotel or back at the site. So for the students who don't attend, they're supervised, and possibly they're shopping, possibly they're doing homework at the beach, possibly they're exploring the city with the permission of the supervisor. So no matter whether you participate or not, your son or daughter will be supervised during the optional excursions. Travel insurance.
Yes, travel insurance, as Kathy pointed out, is mandatory for all students, but not mandatory for you to purchase it from us. So when you check your family or employer plan, as I said earlier, the ultimate plan offered by GHT includes medical cancellation and trip interruption. And the policy is included in each of the digital brochures. When you look on details, there's a link there if you want to go and read the policy in detail when you're doing your insurance shopping. I mean, I think I've spoken to all this already. So
yeah, I think that's good. So before I move on to talk about other programs that are off, well, maybe let's just finish up and then we'll open it for questions in case people have some questions we haven't covered. It's always just important at the end to tell you a little bit more about Blyth Academy and Georgia Hardy Tours. Who are we? What else do we do? So Blyth Academy is a member of Globe Educate. Globe Educate is a network of more than 50 international schools in 9 countries. We're pretty proud of our membership in Globe Educate. It gives our students lots of opportunities to participate in international experiences. It also helps us say with real confidence that we're experts in international travel and international education. We have 8 campuses in various locations, largely in the GTA, but also in Ottawa, and CIHA is just north of Ottawa. Blyth Academy Online is part of our portfolio. We offer online courses. We do night school, we do summer school, and Blyth Academy Orbit it was a brainchild of the pandemic, but it's lasted because it's turned into there's been quite a lot of demand for this virtual synchronous education. So it's like a classroom with this experience. Really good for students who are traveling and are not based in Ontario but want to maintain an Ontario teacher-led education. Also pretty popular with high performance athletes because it gives them a lot of added flexibility. Georgia Hardy Tours. Do you want to talk about who Georgia Hardy Tours is beyond this?
So we are 38 years. We are really a bespoke group travel specialist. So that's our primary business. We do all sorts of different groups. We do wine clubs. We do skiing excursions, cultural organizations. The ROM, for example, we do their trips. Gastronomy focused. We do sports trips, including rugby and soccer tournaments all over the world, and special interest trips as well. So that is our specialty. This is this is what we do. This is what we'll be doing for a very long time, and have a really well regarded and a lot of skill in building a group travel experiences. We also do luxury family tours as well. So those are bespoke and by appointment and by special request. And we do also travel planning consultations. So you can reach out to us and say, you know, I have interest in doing something. Then we have travel consultants available to assist building personalized itineraries. So, yeah, and like I said, 38 years of experience doing this.
Pretty cool. We've reached the end of the presentation. If you're interested in registering, and we certainly hope that you might be, the best way to do that is to register online, blytheducation.com. I showed you that page, and then look across the top, choose the travel tab, and more information and the opportunity to enroll. If you have questions, Georgia Hardy Tours, and there's the
I'm going to just jump in, Kathy, and that's the general mailbox. Email me directly if you have questions. I threw my message in, my email in the chat. It's Bryan, Bryan at ghardytours.com. So the sales, that's a general mailbox, but you know, if you send it directly to me, I'm happy to respond directly with you. Kathy, we have a few questions in the chat.
And I'm just going to put my email in the chat as well, so that people can reach out to me directly as well. Admissions, certainly you will get our admissions department if you reach out to them, and they're happy to respond. But if not, reach out to me as well. I'm certainly happy. Bryan, what questions have we got?
Let's see. So we have somebody asking, do you ever have parents visiting?
And yes, we do. I would say that's not a regular occurrence, but it is something that does happen. All that I would ask is if you do want to visit as a parent, please reach out to the principal. You will have their direct contact information, and make arrangements with them to make sure that your visit doesn't interrupt classes, doesn't overlap with an excursion that your child might be on. But yeah, we do have parents visit from time to time.
We have a question from McDonald. How much academic work takes place and is expected before the trip?
So what we do is we run classes 3 or 4 half days before the trip departs to get the students started in the coursework. That allows them to meet their teacher, meet their, well, actually, I'll back up. we will have a meeting in May, a virtual meeting in May. Actually, did we do it virtually last year? Did we do it at the office? I think we did it in person. We'll have to sort that through. We did it in person last year, probably will again this year. Yeah, you were there, Brian. That's right.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, we did it in person. So we'll have it in person with a virtual option for those people who are far away or can't make it. Meeting in May where everybody gets together. No coursework, but you meet your teacher, you meet the other students, have an opportunity to meet the principal, just gather some more information. So that's the first step. Then 3 or 4 half-day classes before departure, the week before departure, to get students started on their coursework. We have found that this helps free up some time on the trip so that the students have more time to enjoy the sites, the locations, the activities, if they get some of that classwork out of the way before they go. We did have some students last year who were not able to attend those. That is not ideal, but there were a couple of families that had family vacations planned and so forth, and we will work to accommodate if that's the situation you find yourself in.
We have another question from Jordan. I think we've answered it, but Jordan asked, "Does every student get their own room?" And no, the properties it's double, triple, and quad occupancy, depending on. I think I spoke to that earlier, depending on the location and the hotel. Heidi has a question. Do you typically have 40 to 60 participants on each trip as collective and then 5 to 10 in each discipline like math or English? So Kathy says, so the trip size and what's the breakdown by class or course?
That's right. We do not run our trips up to 60 students. We've made a very conscious decision. There's a later question that talks about how do we differentiate ourselves from Global Summers.
Yeah.
And I can speak to that actually, because I've done both trips. So one of the ways that we differentiate ourselves is we do not run these excessively large trips. I know that Global Summers sometimes runs trips of 60 to 80 students, and we've chosen quite deliberately not to do that. We keep our program size in the 40 to 45 range. I think it's safer. I think it's better for kids. I think it allows for a much more personalized experience, a much more fun experience for the students, a much better academic experience. Typically, we would have class sizes in the 10 to 15 range. So we would break that group of 45 up into 3 or 4 classes, depending on the courses that the students have selected. How does Blyth differentiate from Global Summers? I mean, other than trip size, I'm not going to criticize Global Summers because Sam and Dina, I know them well. I used to work with them. In fact, Sam hired me. They run a good program. I'm not going to be critical of them. What I would encourage you to do is to do a side-by-side comparison of the accommodations and the food. If I were to describe the differences, those would be the areas that I would I think that students would notice a difference. Their supervision is roughly equivalent to ours. Their class sizes are roughly equivalent to ours. I think that Georgia Hardy just produces or just provides a slightly higher quality of accommodation and food experience. I'm being honest, but that's a personal opinion as well.
I think it's a lot higher quality, if I may brag.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, Brian, but I'm trying to be fair here.
You are. You're doing great. Yes, absolutely. Jen has a question about accommodations for students with learning needs.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If your student has an IEP or a student support plan, please share that with us and we will 100% meet those accommodations. The typical accommodations are extra time. There are some we can't do. Scribing is really hard for us on a trip like this, but what we could do is have a student take notes using on their computer and then share those notes. So we can accommodate most learning disabilities that students would have. And in fact, we're really good at that, really, really good at that. I'm incredibly proud of the work that we do at Blyth Academy. Our ministry inspector, I've worked with her for the last 4 or 5 years. Our inspections are always flawless. She really congratulates us on the work that we do, delivering high quality education and accommodating for students' needs. So yeah, the answer is absolutely. We can accommodate. And if they need more time, yes, definitely.
Michael asks about March break trips, Kathy.
Yes, so we actually have contemplated March break trips. We quite briefly put them out into the market this year. What we've learned is there has not been demand yet. I would love to go back to a world where we offered March break trips. We do it for our in-house Blyth students, but we have not yet offered a Blyth offered a March break trip for students outside of Blyth. But that is something we will continue to think about, and I would say look for that in the market again next year. Any other questions for us? If not, I would say thank you very much for attending. What Bryan didn't tell you is he's in Paris right now, so we've kept him up late as he enjoys the city of light.
Is he working?
But thanks for oh, there's a couple more things in the chat. Does that mean we have more questions? Nope, just thanks very much. Great info. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for attending. Please reach out to Bryan or to me if you have any questions, and please consider registering. I think probably you can tell from our enthusiasm that we feel pretty strongly that these are amazing opportunities for students, and we hope you choose to travel with us.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for your time tonight.
Recording. I would say, could you reach out to get the recording to anyone who wants that to our admissions@blytheeducation.com. Catherine, yes?
Exactly. Yes. If you email me, I can add admissions@blytheeducation.com. I can send you a copy of the recording tomorrow.
Brilliant. Thank you, Catherine.
And Kathy and Bryan, I thought that was a spectacular session. So it was great to see all of that and hear all of the information. Thank you.
Thank you. Despite
Thank
my
you,
little
everyone. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.